All right. Welcome back to Hot Tag Radio, episode 2, breaking down the business. I'm Carl here with James and Gregg. Tonight, we're going to get into some Jey Uso, some Mariah May, if you want to call her that. I think most people still want to. MJF's past with the Hurt Syndicate and women's division check-ins. And, we can't have the episode today without talking about Ron and John, right? So, James, what do you got on deck today, man?
Man, I think we gotta touch on Jey Uso. It kind of came out of nowhere, but it wasn't unexpected as far as with Gunther. And then there's been a lot of comments since then from Rikishi,
Oh,
Teddy Long. I mean, there's a lot
fantasy
going on with
booking,
Jey
man.
Uso. Bro.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, James. We can talk about that. We'll spend 51 seconds on that today. Greg, what do you got?
Ouch. Yeah, I'm about that MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. I'm very curious where this goes.
The young genius.
The young genius. It's a little interesting because you got two very distinct mouthpieces in the same group. So, how is that going to continue to work? And what's the end result? MJF says he's going for the world title, but he's not even in the picture right now. So where does the story go?
I think that's a very valid argument. I can't wait to break that one down. We're gonna kick things off today with a little news roundup, and first thing on the docket, Jey Uso's title run. We're gonna keep this short, and I'm talking about the segment. All right, so I'm gonna kick it off with this question: did it feel like a legit title run to you guys?
As legit as it can be.
I'm gonna say I think for Jey Uso, I would say yes. I think when I think of Jey Uso, I don't associate him with a championship. Maybe a tag team at most, but I don't associate him as a championship. But you have to establish him as a main event. And the best way to do that.
They've been calling him that for 5 years.
And you can call people whatever you want.
Yeah,
doesn't make a say. You can call rice a sandwich, but it doesn't make rice a sandwich.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to give him those credible wins. You have to give him that platform. So you put him with Cody Rhodes and John Cena and Logan Paul in the main event of a pay-per-view. He wrestles. He wins the Royal Rumble.
PLE, sir. PLE.
Yeah, that. The thing I'm paying for to stream and view it. That thing.
Yeah. On whatever platform.
Whatever platform you're on.
Yeah. Whatever platform's hidden my card, right?
But you give him enough solid wins, you establish him as a credible threat, but he's never going to be a champion the same way you associate Gunther as a champion, the same way you establish Roman Reigns as a champion. That's just not his niche. So I think it was a successful title run. I think it did what it needed to do. But honestly, how many other matches do you want to see as Jey Uso defending that title?
Well, I think I'm going to open this up and kick this out to Greg here, but that old saying, it's like the belt doesn't make the man, right? And I think that's what we saw with Jey Uso. You put a world championship on him, but it didn't change anything. It didn't change how I viewed Jey Uso. It didn't elevate him, and it certainly didn't elevate the belt to where Gunther had it, right? And even Gunther having it, I don't think elevated it to some astronomical level. But yeah, just on that, what are we thinking there, Greg?
Well, here's the question: what do we feel about that belt? Because a lot of people continue to say that is the other belt, because that's the belt that spawned off of the belt that Roman had. By the way, Roman combined belts and was undisputed, and they created this secondary belt, if you want to call it that. So it just depends on how you view it. Some people absolutely view this belt as, can this person who we're giving this title be a main event person? Let's give them the belt and see what happens. Almost equivalent to what the big gold belt was after WCW got bought out. It was sort of like, yeah, it's a world title. It's not the world title, but it's a world title.
It's a world title.
It's a world title. And so to a certain extent, I feel a little bit as though that belt gets treated as the startup world title. Can you carry a show? Can you carry a PLE? Can you carry this brand? And if you're going to test it out, or if you're going to test out whether someone can go over to the other belt and beat Cena, or Roman when he has it, or Cody when he has it, or whoever has it, maybe the argument is you give people a chance. We can't even say the guy's name. We can't even say the man's name.
We'll get there,
Please, man.
It's only episode 2. We got plenty of time.
All right.
I'm gonna hot tag this over to James. So all right. I know, to me, it felt a little bit rushed one way or the other. Like, I feel like when you put the world title on someone, it's got to be kind of in for a penny, in for a pound, right? And I don't feel like they were in. I think it was testing the waters. So James, let's get some thoughts on Rikishi's fantasy booking there, because he was obviously frustrated by it. And then, was this another moment that, maybe they took it off him because if the rumors are true, we're looking at Goldberg, Walter, Gunther, my bad.
Walter. No, Walter's right.
But, even with that, how much was Jey Uso hurt by this?
I don't think he's hurt. Again, we have been spoiled by Roman Reigns, because before Roman, this 1,300-day reign thing wasn't a common thing. Gunther had it for a while with his long reign. Like, we got spoiled for a while because there wasn't enough people to build up. We don't need to see these 300-day reigns for every single champion. Not everybody's going to be doing that. He's in the Mick Foley role. We want to cheer for him. We like him. His reign doesn't need to be more than 3 months.
I agree, but I think under 2 months might be a little bit short, right?
Maybe, but no. But honestly, like, even back to the Mick Foley thing, he held it for what, a week or 2 weeks at some point, and then dropped it right back to the Rock.
I think we're arguing. I think to a certain extent we're arguing schools of thought, right? Jay brings up a good point. Do you want someone with a 3-year reign with everyone chasing them, or do you want the surprise of anyone can lose at any time? The Attitude Era was fun because people could lose at any time. The belts were changing hands. But people stopped liking that when we got into the PG era a little bit. And maybe it's because, to your point, Jay, there weren't a whole lot of champions there. But it's a sort of an argument of philosophy, I think.
I mean, obviously that's a valid point. And the unfortunate thing is wrestling, like in life, you're not going to be able to please everybody, right?
Sure.
So, obviously it didn't please Rikishi. I want to talk about that, right? I mean,
he's mad for his son. That's Dion talking about Shador. That's Ron talking about Bonnie.
Two-thirds of the hosts here have kids, and I know I would probably be vocal too. But does that help Jay that it's like he drops the title and then like his dad goes on a podcast and goes off about it? I'm not hating on him for doing it, because I would probably do the same thing, but I'd do it to you guys. Probably privately. I wouldn't hop on knowing that I'm a public figure and make these comments about the company that my son works for.
Not to mention, he used to work there, so I think he knows how a bunch of people complaining about stuff can be viewed. So, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the Tuesday morning quarterbacking. Look, we Tuesday morning quarterback, but there are no consequences from our Tuesday morning quarterbacking. No one's going to lose their job because Jay said, I don't like XYZ. And no, Carl, Cody Rhodes is not going to lose his job just because you don't like him. So, we have very little
if we can
say.
make that happen, that'd be fine with
we
me.
Cannot.
All right, we'll have less time to talk about Cody Rhodes later. Let's shift gears here. Let's talk about the world famous Blake Monroe, or for those that don't know, Mariah May. What are our initial thoughts on that? Because I can tell you mine, that is a travesty.
Yeah, the name, my understanding is Blake is a tribute to someone in her family. I don't remember exactly who, and I think Monroe is sort of Marilyn Monroe,
Marilyn Monroe.
right?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about it, and I don't think there's been enough of seeing her not only in ring but her presentation to call her a Toni Storm ripoff. But people are already doing that. And here's my thing: give it a chance to see what happens before you already classify it a ripoff. Because not for nothing, that was the expected and understood gimmick when she was in AEW. She was supposed to be a Toni Storm ripoff. Like that was the whole thing. That was the fun of it because she was going to turn on her. I believe I don't know if they're going to keep the glamour, but the Blake Monroe name is what it is. But I'm going to hot tag this one over to you, Carl.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Ricky Starks becomes Ricky Saints. We've got Brian Pillman become Lexi King. Lex King. Yeah, Lexis King. But yet Stephanie McCurr keeps her name. You've got Ethan Page keeping his name. Giulia keeps her name. What do we think is the reason why some people get to keep their names and others don't?
I mean, that's an interesting topic. And I mean, even, we were talking about Santino Marella in TNA, kind of the reverse there. But he got to keep his name. With the exception of Ethan Page, I think we're looking at exposure, right? AEW is a big brand. That's sort of the new WCW. You work there, you don't get to keep that shit. And I don't know if it's serving them well. I mean, I think you're taking an established product and you're trying to change it to control it, and it was already working.
Right.
And I mean, if it's already working, like I'm a big, if it's not broke, don't fix it guy, right? And I think it's kind of like, it's hard enough to catch lightning in a bottle once, right? When you repackage it and you try to throw it out there, man. I mean, how long was, and I want to make this perfectly clear, I'm not comparing anyone on this list to this, but how long was Steve Austin working in wrestling before he became Stone Cold? Right? Like, it is all in the presentation, and if you have a presentation that is already working and you try to take that away from someone, I think it's a dicey game to play. You get the initial impact of the debut, but like, honestly, how much on our radar has Ricky Saints been? Right?
I mean, that's
it was
very
a big
true.
deal. It was a big deal. But I think when you're talking about like some of these international stars and things of that nature, I don't think WWE in particular is worried about like how much their brand is. It's like, okay, we can present you as this because to our audience, it's still going to be that we brought you up and made you what you are.
Sure.
Right. That was a great hot tag, man. So, I mean, so let's play a little hypothetical, and I'll kick this over to James. But if you were in WWE Creative and you had to repackage anyone, who are you going for?
If I'm in WWE and I have to repackage somebody,
Yeah,
anybody.
Hit me with a repackage. Anybody, you pick anybody on the roster.
Damian Priest.
I threw this at you.
Just Damian Priest.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Listen, I think Damian Priest, I think he tries hard. I think there's talent there. If I were to say CM Punk and describe him, I could get 4 or 5 things, 4 descriptions. If I said Seth Rollins, I could get the same thing. If I hot tag Greg and say Damian Priest, go. Exactly.
And I like Damian Priest. I'm still calling him Punishment Martinez every now and again.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's a strong disconnect for me when it comes to Damian Priest. Like when I watch Damian Priest on the screen, unless he's with somebody like a Drew McIntyre who can kind of carry it, in my opinion, I feel the same way that Carl does about Cody Rhodes. Like I don't need to see this.
Yeah.
My suspension of disbelief is gone, and at that point, I'm watching wrestling.
So that is, I mean, James hitting the nail on the head there. That's my 100% issue, is with the suspension of disbelief. I don't think either one of those guys that you just mentioned is fully in belief. I think they think that's what they're supposed to be doing. Right. Nothing of it comes off natural. No, it doesn't feel organic. It feels very forced. That is like my big pet peeve in wrestling. Like, dude, you had a dude playing a literal dead person for like 40 years damn near in wrestling, and that was more believable than what either one of these two dudes are doing. And that's crazy to me, you know.
It's like I said, a repackage. Going back to like the names thing, like Husky Harris would have never made it in WWE,
Yeah.
but Bray Wyatt can take over. You know what I mean? Damian Priest
Husky Harris, man,
needs to go somewhere. I don't get the archery thing. I don't get the dead man eyeliner. I don't get any of it. But bring back somebody. Shout out to him and his mom. You know, saying I'm proud of him.
Yeah,
and all that. But there's a really strong disbelief that when I watch him, I don't feel it. And I feel like if he left, came back as Punishment Martinez or somebody else a little bit different, I could probably get with the character. But right now, I don't see him as anything but somebody who I need to go get something to eat, and when this match is over, I can resume watching, my show. So he needs
definitely eating a sandwich during those matches. All right. So we had our fun little theme of the week with the fantasy booking. We want to keep in line with what everyone else is doing. So we did that. We had our fantasy booking. Let's jump on to what Greg wanted to talk about. MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, or should I just say the Hurt Syndicate, because he is officially signed into the group. Like, he is a member of the group. So let's talk about the Hurt Syndicate. I mean, wild, because I don't think I've ever seen a contract signing for someone to join a group, which I thought was actually creative. And I know that's not like that didn't happen this week, but we kind of got off the rails a little bit last week, and we didn't talk about as much as we wanted to. But okay, so you have the contract signing. There's obviously still some tension there simmering, which, I mean, anytime MJF is involved, we're gonna get that. We know that.
Yeah.
But where does it like, Greg, you're gonna get the regular tag here. I'm walking to the corner and tagging you on this. Where does it go? Are we looking at a title shot? Who's gonna flip on who?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a slow burn, because he's not even in the title picture. So you got to work through whatever's going to happen with Hangman. Maybe after that you can go there, but I think it's going to be a bit of a slow burn. But obviously, eventually, someone's turning on somebody. I don't see it any other way. The question becomes, do you actually allow MJF to get the title before he turns, or does he cost Shelton and Bobby their titles and they immediately kick him out? I don't think we're going to set up a situation where MVP leaves and joins MJF. That doesn't really make sense. So we're in a weird spot right now. Not to mention, there have been a lot of talks about Cedric Alexander is out there, and
I was really hoping Cedric would already be in.
Me too. And look, if we want to talk fantasy booking, I have a strange fantasy booking that I think a lot of people will raise an eyebrow and go like, wait, what? But I think would be phenomenal. Here it is. Say whatever you want, but it is what it is. I would love to actually see them add, pause for effect, Shayna Baszler. I would love for them to involve and add Shayna Baszler to the Hurt Syndicate. I would love to have her come out in a suit, same as them. Suit, tie. I would love her to talk about all the exact things that they talk about, smoke cigars, chase women. That's my fantasy booking, even more so than Cedric Alexander, who I love and I think obviously belongs with the group, but that's my fantasy booking. But I think in the end, I think this is going to be a bit of a slow burn, but in the end, they're going to have a pretty nasty split. And I don't even know if they have the split before or after he gets the title. I do think MJF is going to come back and win the title because I think business was good when he had the title. But I don't know if they're going to allow that whole thing to come to fruition and him to get the title while they're together. But I'm very curious where it goes. This is actually probably one of the most interesting storylines that I'm enjoying right now in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, you know my feelings on that, but I think it's certainly one of their most cohesive storylines. It's tucked away. You get a little progression every week. There's a legitimate story being told. I do enjoy that. Um, off the bat, it's just kind of like an off pairing. I think this is one of the more obvious ones where that I mean, you're not really having anything mesh here. Like nothing went together before, so like it's oil and water,
Yeah.
and I mean they're making it work. It's very entertaining, but I think anyone with a set of eyes knows that like MJF's not joining this to be a member of the Hurt Syndicate for the next 5 years,
Right.
right? So ultimately James will give you the standard tag. This is not the hot tag, but this is the standard tag. Who's flipping? Like who's the one? Like lay me out a scenario where you think that someone turns on someone in that group.
So as Greg was talking about, like who's gonna win the title and how it's gonna happen, that was kind of how I was trying to think of how that would work. And we already saw MJF get flipped on by Adam Cole. And everything in me wants to say MJF is going to flip just because that's just status quo. I see a situation where MJF and probably Bobby are in line for a title shot. Somehow MJF gets it, and they evolution him. We're going to celebrate with you for a second, and then we're going to kick your ass, and now you're gone.
I mean,
can see something
we
like
have
that
heard
happen.
the word
That might be
evolution thrown around with that group. They're like, oh, it's an evolution now. I don't know if it's that. Just because, I mean, you're talking about guys that are already really well established. That's not necessarily what evolution was.
Yeah, some of it was. Because you had Flair was established, but he wasn't as established in WWE. Triple H was definitely established.
I mean, Flair was at that point. Flair didn't need to be established in WWE, but he was. I mean, that was what his third stint.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of like you had the legend, the present, and then the future.
Sure.
These guys are all well.
Yeah,
beyond
MJF
is
far beyond where Orton was or where Batista was at the time. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with him being a part of the group, but I think when you're looking at star power, particularly in that company, his pull and gravitation is a little bit more than what the other guys are. So it kind of doesn't make sense to have the young guy be there. And like people are comparing it to Evolution. I don't think we're looking at that.
Nah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how long it drags, because, like you said, nobody is in that title picture right now. That's pretty set in stone where you have Hangman and Mox.
Yeah,
and I mean, this is a little bit similar to when he was making his initial like real run for the title, where he's got his backing, he's fighting the big heel group, and he's good in the chase. If he gets the title again, I'll be interested to see if he sinks his teeth in a little bit more and makes it feel more like a champion. Because his last run, I'm not gonna lie, felt a little like that Jey Uso stuff that we were talking about earlier, where they were hoping that belt elevated him, and it doesn't. And I mean, you've really got to get the person that's holding it to elevate the belt, not the other way around.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm a huge MJF fan. I understand what he brings to the table. I understand his promos. He's decent in the ring, but I felt like as the heel champion when he had the triple B as he calls it, I think he did some. I think he did some good work. I would be super curious what would happen if truly he did have the belt while he was a part of the Hurt Syndicate, because that could be very interesting. Because both Shelton and Bobby, especially if they still have the tag belts, and were defending those, could really be a thorn in the side for anybody who's challenging him. And so that could be very interesting. At the end of the Moxley and Hangman Page feud, if Hangman happens to win the title, then I could easily see a situation where MJF slots into that, early stage challenger. If Moxley keeps the belt, we're looking at maybe Ospreay, or we're looking at Swerve again, or
Ospreay and Swerve put on a show, by the way.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal match. And the story they're telling, you talk about AEW not doing stories, but the story they're telling, and Ospreay trying to find a way to force Hangman and Swerve to sort of see each other's point of view, and him taking the bullet for Swerve with the super kick.
He sold that so well too.
He did.
Like, it was excellent.
Ospreay's putting himself in the picture for a lot of stuff, but I think Ospreay is one of those folks, that I don't know that he cares. Like, sure, he wants to win titles, but I think Ospreay wants to wrestle good matches and tell good stories, and whatever happens outside and around that, it just is what it is with him.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we're trucking along today. So while we're on the subject of AEW, and we, segment 2 has kind of ended up being our women's division, as it were. So let's talk about Timeless and the CEO. How do we feel about this? Because I'll just put a couple keynotes in here, and then I'm gonna hot tag James. I want to get his thoughts on that, and then obviously pick Greg's brain about it. They've put so much stock into this match, and I think the buildup has been great. I'm really curious if the match can deliver, right? Because it is putting so much on it. And the other part of this, because I think by and large, Mercedes' time in AEW has brought her stock down more than anything else. Coming from where she was to where she is, yes, she's always going to be a household name when we're talking about the women's division, but I don't think she's done anything to improve her legacy as part of the AEW roster. And it's becoming more and more apparent that the only way that she's going to do that is in the ring, because her promos are not where they necessarily want to be, but she can put on a phenomenal match. So I guess that was a very long way to ask. With what the buildup is, and those two women going in the ring, can this match live up to the hype? James?
If it's not just this one match, I think if there's a follow-up rematch after this, I think it has potential, especially for the build-up that it's been given. I 100% agree with you as far as Mercedes' time in AEW and how, all due respect, underwhelming it's felt the entire time she's been there. AEW is already known for solid matches, and she can do that, I think, with ease. But the storytelling aspect, I feel like she's been missing a lot in AEW. I hope it can carry it. I think Toni just came off of almost said her other name, Blake Monroe.
Yeah.
They had I love their feud, and I like the way the match culminated there. I'm gonna say yes, Mercedes and Toni can also deliver in this. If I had to put it at a 5, I'd probably give it like a 3.5 out of 5 as far as my expectations of them actually executing what
Meltzer,
I need to see.
Calm down.
Hang on, I didn't rate the match yet. All right.
I didn't know we were doing ratings. I got to get a list together.
Do it.
I mean, we definitely can. I would be happy to do some ratings with you boys. But all right, so James giving it a 3.5. So we'll hot tag here, because this now becomes a hot tag to Greg. If it is a 3.5, does it live up to the expectations?
So I'm gonna actually take this in another direction. So for those fans who are obviously tuning in to episode 2.
Episode 2.
Not that I said too much on this in episode 1, but so I'm the AEW guy. It just is what it is. I enjoy AEW quite a bit, but I'm going to break from what most AEW fans would probably say on this. I don't think it needs to be, and I don't think it should be. I actually think they would do more for themselves by telling a great story in the ring and not trying to put on an Osprey swerve type of match. Don't even try it. Don't try it. Do what you need to do to bring some drama to the match. Sure, you can have some near falls, but I think this needs to be more of a story told and less of trying to put on a phenomenal match in and of itself. That's I think how they
don't think
win this over.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was
Yeah.
expecting that level of a performance.
People might.
Like I
Some
said,
people might.
Well, but when Carl was saying like, "Will the match deliver?" That's kind of what you were saying is what I was what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
Like the story that they're going to tell in the ring, can it do the story that they've been telling justice?
Oh, that I think absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
in to that point, I think that's both of their styles, right? With Toni and Mercedes, you're talking about two women that can go in the ring and put a story together, right? I'm not like calling you guys up during the match like, oh my god, did you see that like 450 over the barricade to the outside that either one of them is doing? Like that's not what that is. But even going back to like when, I mean, technically both of them were in NXT. You know, they put on absolute bangers of matches. I mean, Sasha, I know it's Mercedes now, at the time of Sasha.
Bayley.
Like, you know, the some of the fatal 4-ways that they did in NXT. She goes up to the main roster. They're in the Hell in the Cell. She does a great job of telling a story without having to do anything crazy and outside of what her skill set is.
Sure.
I'm just curious because this is one of the more hyped storylines on AEW right now. It's going to be difficult. And I think if we are talking about it completely living up to the hype, we might be talking about, you know, a top 10 match in either one of their careers. And they've both put on some great matches.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say about AEW. AEW, when they, and I would argue this one has not been built up the way Mariah May and Toni Storm was built up. But I would say AEW, when they build up, especially a women's feud, and they go to the blow-off match, you know, I'm talking Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, you know, definitely the Toni Mariah match. Like they really had the ability to have some great sort of blow-off matches. And I think this might not be the blow-off match because they may be setting this up for multiple matches. And so, you know, if that is indeed the case, the question then becomes, and I'm a hot tag you, Carl, who wins?
Man, I've kind of gone back and forth on this, and of course you hot tagged me when you saw me looking away. But I was paying attention, so we're good. I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think in order to maximize the feud as a whole, because the hype has been really fun to watch, not gonna lie, right? I think it goes back to what you said. It has to be multiple matches. I think Tony's got to win. I mean,
Tony wins his first match?
Yeah, I think Tony gets the first one.
Okay.
But I do think it needs to be a series of matches. And the way that they've built this feud, we don't see a lot of like what I would consider like blood feud with like women.
Right.
Unless it happens very organically, like the horsewomen in WWE, which I mean, yeah, obviously that fell apart over time. But the matches that they put on together while they were there, top tier. And we just don't see that very often. What they're building this feud could be like one of those multi-year blood feuds where like they wrap it up, maybe have 3 matches this year, get over with it, come back to it, 18 months from now, and it's like, oh, remember when we like brought the house down? Let's run it back. Let's do it again. And those two can do it. They are very capable of doing it. I just sometimes with the production quality there, I worry that it doesn't live up to the hype. But you know, we'll see, and that's part of why we're all here talking about it, right? Because it's like we're all invested. You have us invested, but now you have to deliver.
Yeah.
And it is going to be the delivery that determines the success of that storyline.
Yeah, and personally, I'm not worried about the delivery. Again, usually when they invest in something, it usually turns out pretty good.
Yeah.
And Toni Storm, not for nothing.
Explosion match. I'm gonna go explosion match on you. And then,
I'm referring to the women. Let's not talk about the men. Talk about the women.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I truly mean that. Like, you know, even back when Jade Cargill was there, and you know, it was finally time for them to sort of take the belt off her because she was basically leaving. But like, the AEW Women's Division has got some strong folks. I do get a little perturbed about their focus on the belt and not always putting together other feuds outside. That's really no different than WWE, but you know, for me, it feels more prominent because I expect more out of AEW. Because right now, you know, besides this particular feud, you've really only got like Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford and Anna Jay and Tay Conti. Like that's kind of your other sort of thing that's going on in the women's division. Thunder Rosa, I think, is going to wind up challenging Athena on Ring of Honor. But again, with such a strong division,
800 days, by the way, like over 800 days as champion. And I mean, that was definitely going to be one of the things that we talked about. I definitely inserted myself here, and like it had to be brought up.
Sure,
is that excellence or exile?
Well,
right? Like
again, a lot of it depends on your viewpoint of what Ring of Honor is. I don't think, if you ask Athena, I think Athena is perfectly fine holding the belt for 800 days and being the face of Ring of Honor. Now, Ring of Honor doesn't have a TV deal, and I get that. Some get annoyed that she's not on Dynamite or Collision, and I understand that. I totally get that. But the goal is to try and build Ring of Honor, and if your title and champion keeps showing up doing other things, they're not doing a whole lot of defending of any of the other Ring of Honor belts on main TV. So I get it. I would love to see Athena as much as they could possibly show her, but I actually think if you would ask her, I think she'd be fine with it. But the fans, oh yeah, they definitely think it's exile. But Thunder Rosa going down there and challenging her, I think, you know, as much eyes as you can put on it without having a TV deal, I think it will put eyes on it. But I do think they need to try and get some sort of TV deal to really get these folks out there because, you know, if a tree falls in the woods,
you need the exposure. You need something. And if you ain't getting
all right, we're gonna shift gears, stay in the women's division, but we're gonna switch companies here. WWE is trying really hard to make that women's mid-card picture matter. And one could argue that they're focusing more on that than like the world title picture for the women right now. We got Bayley versus Becky for the IC title, potentially. Giulia, Zelina for the US title. Where are we standing on that? Like, and I'll give you a quick little hot tag or take, whatever you want to call it, this week. But I personally, and we've kind of touched on this in a couple of different segments now, there's just too many belts, man. There's too many belts to try to make all of them relevant. Like they cannot all be relevant. I think AEW has a bigger problem in their hands because of the Ring of Honor championships. And real quick take on that, Dustin Rhodes should never be allowed to cut a promo ever again. It is real bad. It is really, really bad. And one more thing, we have Hart. Like he said, Hart twice. Just FYI.
He was cutting 1989 promos in 2025. Like that was a
Oh, and
full
it
on
was well, dude.
WCW natural Dustin Rhodes promo when he's getting ready to fight Nikita Koloff in the Greensboro Coliseum. That's what
Dude,
that was.
That was, the best man at the wedding taking a swig of whiskey right before his speech and saying, "Don't worry, I'm gonna wing it." Right? Like I got this. I'm gonna speak from the heart. There was no plan in place. I mean, I was watching that and just cringing.
Yeah,
it was like, we have heart, we have hard work, we're all energy, and we have a lot of heart. And I was like, did he just like
You didn't
it
feel the
was
heart in his promo when he was giving it?
no, I'll tell you, it didn't give me the warm and fuzzies like when Hangman did his.
Yeah,
but I mean, not to get off topic, but that is what we're talking about with the titles here. How, I mean, if you have a world title, a WWE championship, an Intercontinental championship, US championship, tag titles on both brands, and then you do that all over for the women, we're talking about double digit titles. How do you make that relevant, right? Like how do you go top to bottom? And like I said, right now with Bayley and Becky for the IC title, that matters more to me than, I mean, what's EO doing, right? Like she couldn't get one of those two. I feel like they're trying to make it matter because it's new. I get it, but then we're just going through this cycle of, we put it out there, we try to make it relevant, and when we're done trying to make it relevant, it goes right back to where it was. There's no true relevancy. The only title that's really relevant right now is the one that the GOAT is carrying, right? Thoughts, boys?
Well, here's the thing. There are ways to do this, and the way you do it, you have to be invested in it. If you're going to create a title, number one, it doesn't mean that you have to have the title defended on every show, but you have to further the storyline in every show. And I think that's the big problem with WWE. And I'm not going to say it's not a problem with AEW, but it's definitely a problem.
You can't say it's not a problem in AEW. They just unveiled a unified title. They literally called it the unified title, and it's not the championship.
Right.
It is two mid-card championships, and they call it the unified championship.
But here's what I'll say. They on AEW, you at least see the people on a fairly regular basis. The problem I have with WWE, the problem I have with WWE is, you'll have a title and that person will disappear for weeks. And I'm not saying they have to wrestle every week. I'm not saying the challenger has to wrestle every week. But look, not trying to be the get off my lawn old guy who just talked about nostalgia. I remember in the Attitude Era, they got the European title over. They got the hardcore title over. And they got them over by putting interesting people in the feuds. The problem I have, and this is just my rule of thumb, if you've already won the world title, I don't really want you scrapping in the mid-card title picture. You have so many great mid-card title people. And you're telling me Piper Niven, you're telling me what's her name? Now I can't think of people's names when I'm trying to think of them. Isla Dawn. You're telling me
I forgot about her for a second.
Yeah.
But to your point, right? Like,
I always get confused. All the Fire and Isla Dawn, I always get them confused. That's my problem. But you've got Stephanie Vacura, you got Giulia, you've got Meechin, you've got B-Fab, you've got Candice LeRae, you've got all these women. Natalya is on Evolve right now. You've got all of these women that are hovering around, and I would argue doing a whole lot of not so much. But you're telling me that you can't have some of these people challenging for these mid-card belts? Again, you don't have to have it. Raquel Rodriguez regardless of whether I'm a fan of hers or not, Raquel Rodriguez has put in her time and has been in the mix. Yes, she has the tag belts right now. I would give those to the Secret Harvest. That's where I would have those tag belts right now. And I'd let Raquel Rodriguez fight for a mid card belt. There's so many women there. You're telling me you can't have some of them in the mid card picture and sort of build. Look, I could give Jade Cargill the IC or United States title and
Honestly,
just build the entire division around somebody trying to beat her. But they're not willing to do that. They're stuck on like this, Becky Bayley stuff. At least Giulia versus Zelina Vega is two up and comers. How
yeah.
people feel about them, it kind of is what it is. But they got to figure out some way to keep the momentum going.
Well, and I'm gonna hot tag this over to James here in a second. I the problem that I have is they have so much young talent. Like particularly in the women's division, there is an influx of just names that are out there that like people already recognize that can carry that title, and especially at the mid card level. Why are we doing Bayley Becky for a mid card championship? That's your women's main eventers. They've been there 10 years and have done it all, and they're fighting over the Intercontinental title.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean to diminish it, but like I think it should be used as a platform to elevate
Yeah.
people that are coming up, and not well established.
Right.
And that's across men, women,
All of it.
children, whatever. It doesn't matter. James, what's your take here, man?
It's so to me, it feels like they're on repeat. They're trying to establish this title with more recognizable names and give that title a cachet, rather than, to Greg's point, allowing somebody younger to hold the title and then give that championship some type of legacy behind it. Like if you're relying on the fact that, well, Bayley held this belt and Becky Lynch held this belt, so now you should care about it. I don't think that works. But
Yeah.
if you have somebody like a Roxanne Perez win that championship, she goes on and puts match, great match after great match. Stephanie Valkyrie, match after match. Now I want to see that next championship. Like with the
Right,
men's IC title, you didn't need Hogan to come back and win the IC title for me
Right.
to care that Shawn Michaels had it. Shawn
Right.
Michaels had classic match after classic match. Bret Hart did the same. I think and I think we're all in agreement. Like they need to find somebody who is new on this division or new on this roster, allow them to establish that championship as well as themselves, and they will all what is it? All ships rise with the tide.
Yeah.
Like
Rising tide.
yeah,
that will happen if you allow someone to naturally get that title over. And I honestly,
Yeah.
I
well,
really like the Jade Cargill point because, like
uh,
with the U.S. title, just let her have it.
Let her have
Let
it.
yeah,
her let her do what she has to do as far as to one, build up her TV time, establish some more in ring ability, and get herself further over so that way she is ready for that world title picture.
Yeah.
Um, I just think they're going backwards in my opinion as far as trying to establish these lower titles.
I agree.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna put an exclamation point on this, and I mean, I I think we've had enough conversations between the three of us, but we'll just surface level bring everyone on here. I think we all three consider like old school. The Intercontinental title was the workhorse championship, right?
Absolutely.
And like you put it on someone, you let them go out and put on banger after banger after banger match until it's like when they lose it, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And they kind of did it with Gunther. It was a long reign. I don't know that like with the modern TV production, you can go out there and say like, all right, you get 20 minutes for your time slot because this is an Intercontinental title match, right? And I think once you put the belt on them, you need to hold those performances off. Like, don't just have them wrestle in a random match. Like, make the guys work for it that are trying to get a match with them, and then you're building a whole division. And
Yeah.
I don't know that it's that complicated because they're just all right. Well, you're the champ, so you're going to go out here, and this week you're going to face this person. It's a non-title match. Don't worry. The following week, another non-title match. 2 weeks before PLE. So this is going to be the guy that challenges you at the PLE. You guys are probably going to have 12 minutes in total on the PLE. Make it work. And it's not believable. And like you're not getting anyone invested because there's no punctuation on it. There's no, oh my God, Gunther went out there. I actually think on this particular, if we're talking about this style of booking, Intercontinental Championship back in the 90s would have been perfect for what Jey Uso's doing right now.
Sure.
He wouldn't have been world champion. He would have been an incredible Intercontinental champion if you let him. But like you're trying to get every belt on TV. You're trying to get every face on TV. There's no time to build that reputation for any of those championships. I think if you're talking Jade, because we talked about putting Jade in a title, give her the U.S. Let her be the U.S. champion, because that's not necessarily like your workhorse championship. And I know they're supposed to mirror each other, but they don't, right? Give her that championship. Let her have another long win streak. Let her bury a bunch of like local performers, get them some TV time. You get her a good challenge, because the thing is, and we know this, if Jade has to go 15, 20 minutes in the ring, one-on-one, it's not going to go down in the history books as one of the best matches of all time. And I'm not knocking Jade. You guys know, I think she has probably more star presence than anyone else in the whole division. But when it comes to ring psychology and things like that, like putting those matches together, it's not an easy thing. And maybe she will get there. But like, as it stands, like, she does very well in tag matches. You go back to the WrestleMania match. Like, I mean, her and Naomi had all that buildup. We talked a lot about buildup today. They had a ton of buildup. Did that match deliver on the buildup?
No.
We all knew what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah.
And the match went on. I mean, the three of us, could have sat in my living room and wrote that out. We almost would have nailed it to a T.
Yeah. Well, I think here's the thing. They had the right people for those titles when they initially won them. Chelsea Green.
Oh, I agree.
Perfect for the title. Lyra Valkyrie.
100%.
She is the quintessential Intercontinental workhorse champion.
Yep.
Like, perfect for that belt. The thing about it is, I think twofold. Number one, I think WWE sometimes skips steps and doesn't work people through and get, like, they don't want Jade Cargill in a mid-card title picture. They want her in the main event. But, like, work her through the system.
Let her get there.
Yeah, work her through the system. But to me, Michin has done the work. She needs to win the title at some point. Zelina Vega, I get it. But I don't think they thought through how that title reign was going to go. They just kind of did it.
Well, that's the old Zack Ryder at WrestleMania. You're gonna go out there, get your moment, and then there's no plan. And that, I think that's the biggest difference between the wrestling that we all kind of grew up with and the wrestling today, is that there doesn't seem to be a plan. It's like even Jey Uso, we're talking about a world champion, and it was like, all right, we built you up for months and months and months and months and months and months. You win the Royal Rumble, you get the match at WrestleMania, you get 51 days.
Yeah.
Like, his buildup was longer than his title reign. And I think that when people look back on that, that's where, like, okay, if it is a one-off, you rewind time and go back to that Mick Foley winning it on the random Monday night where Eric Bischoff tried to spoil it. Mick Foley is going to be their champion. And that actually increased the ratings. It was a short run, but it was an unexpected win. We expected this win for Jey for months and months and months. I mean, I don't know that any of us had him winning the Rumble, but once he did, we kind of knew what the trajectory was. It was like, or trajectory, excuse me. He's going to win the title. And I mean, there's nothing that we can really do to change it. Yeah. It was a bad look.
It just depends on what happens. I mean, if that's it for him and he never gets back in the world title picture again, then I would say they probably, they did some short-term booking and probably just sort of gave somebody a moment and kept it moving. The question is whether or not they make the decision to build him back up and give him the belt. But here's the other thing, right? We haven't specifically talked about this, but I know it's coming. You know, how many times have we taken a belt off of somebody because of a Brock Lesnar or a Goldberg coming? Or how many times has a Goldberg or a Brock Lesnar taken the belt off of somebody when they were in the midst of doing something? I would be very, very annoyed. I like Walter. I enjoy him. I don't know that I would have had Jey Uso beat him, just to be perfectly honest. But I would be highly, highly annoyed if they give him that belt only to have Goldberg come in and take it off of him. That would destroy the credibility of that belt in my mind. Just destroy it.
Here's the thing, and you guys know how serious I am about some of this stuff where I'll take breaks, right? Like I know this is like we're doing this conversation and we're making it a weekly thing, and it's all of a passion for us, but like, or a passion for all of us, but I cannot move forward with some of these actions. And I'm going to tell you right now, if they put their title on Gunther just to have him lose to Goldberg so Goldberg can have one more, I'm going to take a break for a little while, because I think it's foolish that you invest years in building up Gunther as one of your top guys. And like, whether people want to admit it or not, he is, right? Gunther, Walter, whatever you want to call him, he is a top guy. If you let Goldberg take the title off him the same way they did it to The Fiend, I can't get on board with that. There's absolutely no reason to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Lesnar. They took his last match. They took the belt off Kofi to give it to Lesnar so they could do the feud with the other MMA guy, Cain Velasquez.
Yeah. Cain Velasquez was next. Yeah.
What are we doing? I am hopeful that this is truly, sort of a, hey, Goldberg, come back, have one last title match, but you're not winning it because of. I'm not willing to sit through a 3-month or 2-month or even 1-month Goldberg reign for, somebody to get the belt.
I'm not going through
I'm not willing to sit through one night.
Yeah, no, like, that's what I'm saying.
Look, I'm gonna be Rikishi if that happens.
I'd be Rikishi. Like, we'd all be Rikishi if that happened.
Like, if the whole point was to give it to Goldberg, then it was a complete waste, and Gunther should have never beat Jey. Like, honestly, Jey should be going to SummerSlam with the title. If this is what the end result is supposed to be.
I mean, honestly, if the whole idea is to give it to Goldberg, just let Jey keep the reign.
Exactly.
Like, it would lend him more credibility. And I think, realistically, no one should be dropping to Goldberg. I mean, we've kind of seen that whole story in WWE, and no one wants to see it anymore. But if you're going to have a champion lose to Goldberg, it should be Jey Uso, not Gunther, right? Like, so I mean, there's that.
There shouldn't be a title. I'm sorry. I don't care. Whatever match Goldberg's in, it doesn't need to be for a title. I don't care if he faces Jey Uso. I don't care if he faces Gunther. There's no reason why Goldberg should be in a title picture. Period.
Yeah,
I agree. But that's seemingly how they just want to bring him back every single time for some unbeknownst reason. I will get very worked up talking about this, and we have very little time left today. And we cannot finish out the episode without touching on Ron and John. So last week we were still very much caught off guard that Ron was back after a very brief release from the company. That might be one of the quickest rehires. I'd be interested to look into that, but
there's actually something. I actually saw something on Twitter. Maybe I think number one was the Boogeyman for some odd reason, but it was like 3 different things. I think the Boogeyman was first. I forgot who was second, and I think Ron Killings might have been 3rd or 4th.
How long was he gone for? Like, was it 2 weeks?
Ron Killings?
Truth?
Yeah, how long was Ron Killings gone for?
It was like 4 days.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 days.
Wow. It was real quick.
I thought I thought he got released like on a Monday, or the Tuesday after Raw, and then there was like a week of shows.
I might that might be
Maybe.
right.
Well, the
I don't
other
know.
issue is technically
time
some would
is
argue he was never actually released.
All right,
His
well, he was released.
contract was
So,
running out, and
dude,
he
I'm
wasn't
gonna
going to
tell
resign.
you,
But
they
anyway.
released that man. Like
so
I
he was
I
released.
there's not an ounce of me that believes that any of it's work, because it just doesn't make sense for it to be. And
Yeah,
I mean,
I meant more so from the perspective of he wasn't released, but his contract was expiring. But did his contract actually ever expire? Is more what I was going for.
uh, I I think it
Don't know.
did. I don't think that they had any intention on bringing him back. But that's me. Maybe I'm taking the bait. Who knows? But okay, so now a very quick turnaround on this booking. So you got CM Punk in the picture, and then obviously like he's gonna get a title shot. So what is the purpose of having another Cena versus Killings on Monday Night Raw? By the way, this is burning up a date for John, right? And we only have 18 left. So now he's gonna have 2 matches on his farewell tour against Ron Killings. How do we do this? Does Ron the Truth Killings, need to win this match, or is the exposure enough to keep his momentum going?
If it's a non-title match, I think he's winning. If it's non-title, obviously, if it's for the title, he's not winning. But I think if it's non-title, I think I think CM Punk costs Cena the match, and Ron Killings gets the win. That's my guess.
So, how about because I mean we're sort of up against it here. We've got a couple minutes, but so how about if it is a world title match and Killings wins, but it's by like disqualification due to CM Punk, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's the only tie-in.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the needle for me, but like if you're gonna set the stage for Punk Cena, and that we all knew that was coming, right? It had to, but then it's like, all right, well now we got to figure out. I thought they were just gonna bring R-Truth back, Ron Killings, upper mid card role, have him get a little aggressive, maybe be in that main event picture a little bit down the road. Being released after you got your moment with Cena, released, whatever you want to call it, come back, and then you get another match right off the bat. Like I just the build up for it's just not there for me.
See, I disagree. I feel like I don't know where else he would go, because he had the match with Cena. He gets released. When he comes back, it's to screw over Cena. Like, if you're gonna throw him with some random person, who is it?
I mean,
or do you finish out with John Cena? Allow this to progress Cena's Punk thing. It could potentially give Ron somebody else to work with, depending on how you do the match. But to just throw him in there with somebody random, I don't see how that would fit.
I mean, if they're trying to reintroduce him to the audience as like a serious role, you literally can go with anybody, because
but you still got to finish up with John Cena, who his whole gripe was you called me a joke, Cena. You called me this sidekick act. You did all this, and you probably are the one that got me fired. That part's not in there, so but that could be the psychology there.
I've got some fantasy booking for you. Even though, quite frankly, this is already being done, this is maybe a slightly different way to do kind of what's already being done. Honestly, I agree with Jay that I think the Cena hovering around the Cena picture makes sense, but I honestly think his next feud should be with the Judgment Day. I think he needs to go back and get all the people that got him. Unfortunately, the Miz ain't gonna be around. The Miz won't be here because I don't think he's coming back. I think that he's gonna be released.
Yeah.
But I actually think he needs to go back and take some revenge on people who messed with him in the past. Go after Finn, go after Tom and Nick Mysterio, just take out the Judgment Day. And honestly, I would even have him sort of hover around Damian Priest and go, I don't really know what to make of you because we've been on, sort of both sides of it. But I would go back in the archive and look at what he's been doing and who sort of made fun of him or called him a joke or
Made
whatever
him
the
a
case
joke,
may
yeah.
be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I'd have him just take them people out one by one. That would
I
be
like
my
the
I
booking
villain
for him.
story. Yeah, I like that.
honestly, I think that's the way to do it. And when I'm saying like throw him in with someone random, that's more along the lines of what I meant. Like someone he's got history with, maybe like now he's trying to be taken very seriously. There was a rumor swirling that was part of the negotiation. Was
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to be done with the R-Truth stuff. I want to be Ron Killings again. And I mean, it's valid, right? And if he does go back and pick off all those people that made a joke out of Ron Killings, then I mean, I think that would make for a fascinating story, and I think everyone's invested. I don't know anyone that you know watches wrestling, not even on the level that we do, but like as casual that is like, yeah, I don't like R-Truth.
Right.
R-Truth is pretty universally liked, right? And I think when you give him that opportunity to go out and pick people off, I think that's fantastic. I think it's going to be captivating TV and potentially a nice way to put a bow towards the end of his career because I mean he's getting up there too. So we'll see what that delivers. And I mean I think we all know what the outcome is going to be. I think the dead giveaway is whether or not it's a title match. If it's non-title, then yeah, I think Cena probably lends him the credibility
Yeah.
to be like, all right,
Mhm.
man, he came back and beat the GOAT while he was carrying the championship.
Yeah.
And maybe it is, CM Punk interferes in this and that, but I don't even know that like that feud needs CM Punk interference to move it forward. There's just vitriol there. They dislike each other. It's it makes for good TV, but I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna switch out real quick. Final takeaways from this week. Let's start with Greg. Just a final takeaway.
What do I want my final takeaway to be? Uh, I'm gonna go back to something we talked about a little earlier on the Mercedes Moné thing. Here's my final take. I know you both think her time in AEW has been underwhelming. My argument is I think some of that is by her own design. I think much like John Cena, she's making the choice to pick who she wants to wrestle. I think she's making the choice to who she fights, where she goes, and what she does. And I think some of that is because of what choices she's made. She could have easily been in some of the title pictures and probably losing because that's what would be needed of her. I think it was sort of her desire to go, oh, I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to go over here and win this belt. I'm going to go over here and win that belt. I'm going to win the TBS belt and I'm going to fight Harley Cameron or I'm going to fight, some of the other people that she's fought. I think she's made that decision. And I think that's part of the reason why this is occurring because she hasn't made it an effort to go, I'm going to go after all the top women and I'm going to try and hold the belt. And at the end of the day, we'll see where that gets her. If she beats Toni Storm and gets the title and has literally 6 belts, I think is what it is, including the TBS and the world title, then we'll see whether or not she can really do something. Personally, I would rather her take her first loss because she needs to take her first loss. The Jade
Agree.
Cargill thing, they backed themselves into a corner because they let Jade Cargill go undefeated. And then she was like, deuces, I'm out. And they had to beat her real quick twice with Chris Statlander, which has never really translated for Chris Statlander. And so
Yeah,
you need to get
she
that
got no
loss.
rub.
Yep, you need to get that loss, make it happen. Toni, I don't think is going anywhere. Not that I necessarily think Mercedes is either, but I am fairly certain Toni's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Have Mercedes take that first loss, and then see where it takes her. That's my
yeah.
final thought.
Tony's got too much freedom in AEW. I don't think she would ever consider
Best
leaving.
character
Hands down.
potentially of both companies in the past 5 years. Best
I
character.
would say it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close. James, what do you got?
I got to go back. I know we didn't really touch on him at all actually this week, but just be on the lookout for my man Swaggy Solos, his rise coming. I'm mourning the bloodline. I was a big bloodline person. I love the entire run. I
I
love
love the bloodline.
how it came, but honestly, I love the transition from Solo and Roman's bloodline to where Solo is now. And
Dude,
this
his character is hilarious. Who would have thought that dude was that
exactly
hilarious?
who saw that?
Dude,
Hilarious.
cleaning up every week. And you know what? We'll make it a point right now to punctuate episode 2 with a little tease for episode 3. We'll spend some time on
On Swaggy,
swag. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
man, Swag Solo.
We'll
Listen,
do that
his U.S. title
because
reign is coming after SummerSlam. I'm putting that
oh
out there now, easily.
I think it has to.
With the Tongans coming back to screw
I
Jacob.
think I think in the coming months we're going to start seeing Solo put the building blocks in place for his own legacy.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
you know, I think whatever the match is, if it's him and Jacob one-on-one at SummerSlam, that is going to be the match that steals the show.
Yeah.
Easily.
And I'm gonna say it now. I don't think it's gonna be close.
Yeah.
If it is those two, the build-up's been perfect. They're legit family, and I know we saw some disappointment with the Usos one-on-one. I think this one's going in a different direction. I think it's going to be violent. It's going to be entertaining, and
the build and the
I
match
think
are going to be.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm gonna make one last hot tag at the end because I want to know. I'm gonna ask this question to Jay, and it's gonna be a hot tag.
Oh, give it to me now. I don't know. What's up? Bring it.
Solo Sikoa and his mannerisms, his sort of how he his mocking of Penta and LA Knight, and his facial expressions.
So good.
Dare I say, Rock-esque?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get a little bit of like 1998 Rock, a little bit of Nino Brown, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My man,
I like that guy, man. I like that guy.
I don't know where this person came from, but I need more of this because
I think he was there. I think he was there, but sometimes the role you need to play is a certain role. And in that bloodline, he was just a cold-blooded killer and couldn't say anything and couldn't smile, couldn't crack, couldn't break. But good grief, man. You put that dude on the mic.
Yo.
Dude, I love that transition too. Exactly what you just said. I love the transition, the art that goes into the silent character to this like all the way out there like Ford guy that's like stealing the show every time he steps on the screen.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. And like I said, we will make it a point to talk about Swaggy Solo next week.
I got thoughts on trajectory. His trajectory and Dominic Mysterio's trajectory. That's your main event. That's your main event in maybe 5 years at WrestleMania, 3 to 5 years at WrestleMania. That's your main event.
I absolutely agree because we didn't talk about Dom either. My guy, Dirty Dom, smoothest dude in the business, man. Like, come on,
and who saw that coming? Like when he first
came,
I didn't see this.
Man.
Well, dude, I now I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna give one final thought, just a quick clip on Dirty Dom. His commitment to the bit and staying kayfabe is what is separating him from everything. Like, dude will go on like a podcast and they're like, we're here interviewing Dominic Mysterio, like they try to keep it all like behind it, and he is like in character all the entire time. Dude, the trash that man talks about his dad to this day. They haven't been feuding for like 3 years now.
Still trash.
And he's still like, my dad sucks.
Yep.
My dad's a piece of shit.
Yep.
I'm the best Mysterio of all time. Like, all of it is a masterclass in how to like get over as a heel.
Yep.
And I did not have that on the bingo card when it was like the clean cut Mysterio kid. Like I didn't have that, but he is playing it so well.
Yep.
He deserves all the flowers that are coming to him. So
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. This is when I knew he's going to be a main event guy. Do you remember when Tiffany Stratton had the Money in the Bank briefcase and was teasing cashing in on Liv and said, what I'm interested in is if I cash in and win the belt, do I get him as well? The look that Dominic gave he gave a look like, really? And then Liv looked at him. He was like, no. If you go back and watch that promo and watch that segment, it was one of the greatest sort of look and then different look to let me know that like this guy understands how to play, who his character is and how to play his character. He's definitely a ladies' man and he will continue to be that, but he's always gonna be like, no, I don't know. I'm just a guy that, I'm just a guy.
He's just a new Latino heat, man. He can't
I'm just the greatest luchador of all time.
Amen.
Like, despite my boy
has been
El
in the
Grande.
business longer. Nobody.
Hey, since 8 years old, man, he was getting paid at 8 years old.
Carl, we were there.
We were there.
We saw what that deadbeat did and how he risked his son's custody.
Unreasonable. Yeah. That man led an 8-year-old into a ladder match.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are we doing? All right, guys. I think this was a very successful episode too. I had a lot of fun on this one.
Always.
So obviously, if you had a lot of fun listening to us, hit that like and subscribe. Got to do that bit. And then next week, obviously we're gonna talk some solo. Maybe see where this whole Goldberg Gunther thing goes. Maybe we'll break apart and finally spend a couple minutes talking about Cody Rhodes, but Lord knows he doesn't need any more screen time. All right, that is a wrap.
Hey, come find us on Twitter. That's all I'm saying. Come find us on Twitter. Let's talk some trash.
TikTok.
Let's talk some trash on Twitter.
Dude, I'll put this out here because I'm gonna put James to work. You mentioned James on Twitter and he'll cut a promo on you. There you go.
All you gotta do. Yeah, I will happily create a Twitter just so I can talk some trash to you on Twitter.
All right, guys, we will see you next week. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe one more time.